If your audience was to watch the last 10 pieces of your content, would they walk away knowing one, what you know? Would they know two, what you've been through and how that transformation can help their life or their business? Welcome to Magnetic Woman. My name is Melissa Clare. So let's dive into this. I heard this marketing expert for YouTube say the other day that you don't want to be creating the most exciting content. And I was like, what? And it was like, no, you want to create the content that your audience recognizes you for. And so I really began to think about that as a perspective of a singer, right? Do you go to a concert to listen to your favorite artist sing someone else's music? Or what if your favorite artist that you went to go see all of a sudden just started singing songs that you'd never heard? And you were like, well, wait a minute, I like to hear my favorite singer's song. So a lot of times online, you might have a story and you might think that maybe your story is not that exciting or it's boring or maybe you don't really know how to share your story. And that's what I want to talk to you about today because your story matters. But it's not the way it's but your story is not your resume that everything that you've done and why your audience needs to know that. Your story is about your personal transformation. You see, it's like back in the day when they used to sit at the fire and talk about a bear that came to like attack the village. They would talk about, and then he grabbed the pole and then he ran towards the bear and the bear ran away. Obviously, I know nothing about bears. But while you're listening to the story, your mind is learning about how to handle it if a bear came to try to attack you. And that's what we remember. We remember the transformation. We remember what happened in the story, and then we can see ourselves in that story, and then we can imagine ourselves taking those actions. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story because I know that it can support you. Why? I went from going behind the camera to a stage, and that transformation was really powerful. As a coach and as a content creator, I've lived on both sides of the camera. When I was a photographer, I absolutely loved it. Being a photographer, I love to capture those spontaneous moments that the bride and groom were having. It was like capturing that moment that could live forever as a memory in their mind. And I loved being able to play with the light. But what happened was is that I called a lot of attention to myself because I live in Mexico, being a blonde expat photographer, a lot of the people that came on holiday, they wanted to know a lot about me. And sometimes the bride didn't like that. And so I was like, you know what? If I'm going to call attention to myself, why don't I just go for my childhood dream? Why don't I just become a singer? And that was very scary. So in this part of the story, I want to ask you, have you ever done anything that was just really out of your comfort zone? Something that scared you? I know a lot of times they say in order to grow, you have to do things that scare you because if you stay comfortable, well, it's kind of like water just sitting there in a pond and not moving. We actually grow when we put ourselves under these like stressful things, right? Like either a hot sauna or a cold ice bath or putting ourselves out there to the world. So maybe you're watching me and you're thinking, well, I want to tell my story. I've done a lot of amazing things. I have expertise, but I don't really like being online. Do I really have to do this? Can I just get an AI double to do everything? Can I just hire a marketing company? And I would say, no, don't do that because humans really do like to talk to other humans. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't like it when I get stuck with like some AI bot when I call someone. I want to talk to a real human. And the same is really going to be happening more and more online. People want to hear other people's stories because it's just the way we learn. Our brains are wired for stories. So when I became a singer, I remember the first time I walked out on the stage and I was at a radio show and I remember hearing the audience scream. And I remember thinking, are they screaming because of me? But they were screaming because my dancers were coming on the stage. And it was so overwhelming for me because I looked out and I saw these faces and all of a sudden I felt all these eyes on me. And then I thought, okay, words and the dance movements. And I was like, all of a sudden it was happening then. And all this adrenaline filled my body. And before I know it, it was like this out of body experience. You know, if you ever ridden your bike really fast and you see everything moving really quickly, or if you've ridden a horse, it's like everything's just going really fast, but you're thinking about how to stay on the horse. That's how I felt that moment on stage. Maybe sometimes you feel like that if you have to press record or if you have to press publish. You know, something that I would love for you to do is actually, after you watch this video, if you are an online entrepreneur, if you are a woman that wants to be seen, that wants to be known, and wants to be hired, I want to give you an exercise that you can do. It's called Go For It. It's like, don't press pause, press publish. I want you to sit down, pull out your camera, and start to tell your story. This is your story for you. I want you to watch yourself tell your story. I want you to hear how you speak. Are you speaking as your normal self? Are you creating some fake voice? Do you like to use your hands? Sit with some window light in front of you so that you don't have to be too dark. I have a beautiful window in front of me. If you have a professional microphone, pop it on. If you don't, try to get the sound as good as possible and tell your story. Don't give your resume. Tell some of your stories, right? So me as a photographer, I love to be a photographer because it absolutely lights me up to be behind my lens and have all of those moments that I have to be thinking to capture. It's a woman who's doing a branding photo shoot, whether it's a couple back in the day when I would do weddings. I just love that essence that I have with the person that I'm photographing, right? So what do you love about your job? What do you love to do? What do you love to feel? What lights you up? That's part of your story. And then maybe you could tell a story, like a time that you closed an amazing deal or a time that you helped someone heal from something. Tell a story about what you've learned. Like me, I remember the first time I saw a woman use the photographs that we created on her website. And I felt so excited because I remember we went through so many things to get this branding photo shoot. And when I saw the website, and then she told me that she could use them so many times. It was just such a beautiful feeling to know that I was there to capture this woman with her vision and create that vision into these images that she can use over and over in her brand, right? That was really satisfying for me. So go into your story. What is it that's lit you up about helping a client? What result would you give them that just made you feel so good to do what you do? Right? Now, another part of my story. Well, I was a photographer for many years, and then all of a sudden I was like, is this all that I'm going to be doing in my life? Just photographing people in their weddings? And I was like, what did I really want to do growing up? And I remembered that I always wanted to be a singer because when I was little, my grandparents, for example, they lived in Massachusetts, and I would go and I would like spend all summer in Cape Cod just like singing and dancing in their lawn. And then every dinner, I would give them a dinner show. And I used to pretend that I was a singer. And it's crazy because I pretended so many times in my life that I actually manifested it. So, yes, when you envision something and you practice it in your imagination, it will come to fruition. So, when I moved to Mexico, first I was a photographer, and then I remembered that I had this dream, and I put down my camera and I picked up the microphone. And that's when I learned about stage fright. And that's when I learned about, in order to overcome my stage fright, I really had to learn about expanding my energy, grounding my energy, looking past the audience, using my voice, how to sing and dance at the same time. It was like this whole new world that I had to discover. And that was exciting. I loved learning new things. It was so exciting to me. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. What have you learned in your life that you can share with your audience? So, what have you done? What's a story you can share about something that you've done? Write it down. Like I said, when you're finished watching this, go and record your video. The last thing that I want to share with you in your story, who were you when you first started and who are you now? So if I look at my life from that young woman that was a photographer with that dream to be a photographer to now becoming a coach, and using everything that I've learned just lights me up. Because for me, showing up for what I desire to create here in my online brand, I help other women to create their dreams. But if I didn't show up for my dream, then I might not be able to help you or the other people that I'm going to help. And you see, that's what is the beauty about really going for what you desire. That is what's so powerful when you get out of your own way. When you get out of your own way, past your own fears, and you realize that you, one, do have an expertise or a knowledge or something that people ask you about, or maybe you know that pain point that you can help your client, an offer that can help someone get out of pain that's costing them in their life, either financially or in health or in stress, and you can help them, that's a gift. Now, if you want to come online and you realize that creating content feels heavy and you didn't realize it, but you don't feel comfortable talking about yourself, you don't feel comfortable about being seen online, you didn't realize it, but being online is a little intimidating and it might make you feel uncomfortable. Like imagine that you wake up in the morning and instead of thinking, oh my God, I have to create content, you get this burst of inspiration. And you really imagine that person out there that's going to see you and hear you. And something that you say to them makes them take a different action that day. Or it makes them click your button and look at your offer and they say, wow, this is exactly what I needed to hear. What if, now here's the opposite side of it. What if you decide to stay hiding? Where will you be 6 months from now? Where will you be a year from now? How would you really feel if you know that you never really went for it? And now, how would you feel if that excuse that you have, that insecurity that you might feel, that doubt, that fear of success, or that fear of failure? What if you even never try it? You'll never know. And you only have this one life to live as you. What if 10 years from now you think, oh my God, I really wish I would have tried it so that I know? So I want to encourage you today just to get out of your comfort zone, just to pick up the camera, tell your story, tell some stories, how they relate to your expertise, your knowledge, how you've transformed your own life, your clients' lives, and how you showing up for your dreams can help someone else achieve their dreams. Think about that. I would love to know in the comments below. And of course, if you haven't got my free 5-step guide, I'm going to leave it in the comments also, or you can find it in the description below. And just so you know, I've created a really powerful AI guided identity shifting program. I've had this very powerful AI prompt created to support you and guide you so that you can discover what's been holding you back or keeping you from being seen, known, and hired. More about that in the link below. I cannot wait to see you on the next one, and I wish you a beautiful day.